people, I'm thinking of people in particular, that swore to me that they could never do an open focus. They have yelled at me. They've carried on with me. I'm thinking of one guy who's from New York that just told me there's just no way. Anyway, he is now a super happy guy. He is now a super successful guy. He is now in love with life. He's now helping create a charity called Give to Give for our students that are diseased or injured in some way or have mental health issues because he's become so successful he wants to give back. He swore to me that he would never be able to do this because he didn't think he could settle his mind down. And all I kept saying to him was, it's not that difficult. When you drive to work from your home in New York State into the city, all I want you to do is just become aware of the space of the inside of your car. Don't look around and see the space. Just know that you can put your awareness. You could feel the glass of the window to your right. You can feel the glass of the window to your left. You can sense there's a back seat. You can sense there's a front seat. You can sense the distance between the top of your head and the roof of the car, you know, the very top of the car, the ceiling of the car. Don't make it hard. Just play with it. Become aware of the whole entire car in space. Be aware that there's a car in space. You can do that if you practice doing it. Now, you can do it with your eyes open. I do it all the time. I practice doing it quite a bit of time, especially when I get a little bit out of balance or I get a little over-focused. I start opening my mind up, and when I do that, my body kind of settles down. So the resistance that your body is having as you open up your focus is more than likely that A, you're probably trying to do it perfectly, you're trying to do it too well, you're trying too hard, and you're making it more difficult than it really is. The combination of what we call a single-minded focus and an open focus is the acknowledgement of both the particle and the wave. It's the acknowledgement of both matter and energy. Now, why is this important? Because you are both matter and energy. You are both particle and wave. You're not just particle, you're not just matter. You're both of those things. But if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and you're living primarily by the hormones of stress 70% of the time, according to the research, then most of your attention is on matter and less on energy. So you believe that everything is matter and there's not any energy, but science will tell you that everything's vibration, everything's frequency, even matter is vibrating. So when you put your attention in different parts of your body and you sense beyond your ears, beyond your neck, beyond your shoulders, around your torso, around your hips, between your knees, you can just become aware that there's space there. If you can just relax into the present moment and open your focus and sense it, if your mind wanders, don't get frustrated. If you get frustrated, your brain is going to move into high beta. If you get impatient, it's going to go back into high beta and it's going to start thinking too much. Now, two things. Number one, I can tell you that I have a very, very, very big analytical mind. And it has gotten in my way early on in this process because I always try to figure out what I was doing and how I was doing it, and if I did it good enough, and should I do it better, and should I try it again, and I wasn't good enough, and I got to do it over, and what's wrong with me, this takes too long, it's too hard, I bet you everybody else is doing it, I'm not doing it. Those are the exact thoughts of the analytical mind that you have to overcome. So if you took a piece of paper out, Lisa, and you wrote them all down, all the thoughts, I'm frustrated, this is too hard, I'm going out of my mind, I can't do this. Those are the thoughts. And once you're familiar with them and that thought comes up, you should be able to settle it down, stop it, relax into the present moment, and go back to the process. I promise you, if you do that repeatedly, sooner or later, the default mode networks in your brain are finally going to settle down. I mean really settle down. And the critic, the analytical mind, will begin to become more sedate. So, why do we do this? Because so many of the other things that we do, from blessing of the energy centers to coherence healing, when you rest your attention in your heart and you feel care and kindness and love, and you become aware of the space beyond your shoulders, around your body in space, you're acknowledging that you're both a body and a consciousness. You are matter and energy. And then if you can rest your awareness beyond the palms of your hands in space, you're acknowledging that there's energy there. And if you can create a coherent signature by putting your awareness beyond matter, you should then begin to affect matter as energy. So if you can then rest your awareness in the space, in the room in space, and I say create a dimensional door, if you can just anchor your consciousness, your attention, your awareness in one particular place, and I have 400 people doing the same thing, it shouldn't be too difficult for everybody to lock into that place. So it's training. If you're going to dimensionalize your mind movie, and you're going to have to not only just see your car or see your whatever new job, whatever you're going to, before you see anything, you have to become aware of where you are in that mind movie. And if you have the proper brain chemistry, because you know how to activate your pineal gland, because you can put your attention in that space and around this gland in space and in the space within that gland, and raise the frequency and then receive, and you're able to continuously add more experience to the baseline of what you're doing. Sooner or later, all of this will come together. So I think that maybe you're just making it harder than it really is. I think you're trying too hard. And I would suggest that when you're brushing your teeth before you go to bed, become aware of the space beyond your ears in space. When you're laying in bed at night, just rest your attention in the space behind your breastbone in space until you fall asleep. When you're driving in your car, become aware of the space of the entire inner cabin of your car. When you're sitting down to have lunch, become aware of the space behind the booth that's behind you in space. All I'm asking you to do is to focus on energy, to focus on information, to focus on space. And by you doing that, your nervous system becomes more of an antenna than it does just a piece of matter or a piece of flesh. So the purpose of all of this is to create coherent brainwave patterns. We know from measuring so many brains, and I was just with my scientists today in meeting after meeting after meeting, the coherent energy that we are creating just in the event in Cancun, the compressed coherence in that room was so incredible that it was taking the entropy, the disorder of the room, and the disorder when we started out was very large. And the amount of coherence, the reverse entropy that was created in that room was because everybody was creating coherence, and it was going against the laws, very laws of matter in thermodynamics. That's not only creating coherence in the person's brain, but it's creating coherence in the field. And the coherence in the field is a very nice feeling. But we're opening our focus because we've studied enough brain scans during meditation, before meditation and after meditation, that when the brain starts getting organized and you're sensing and you're feeling, you're not thinking. And if you're sensing and you're feeling and you're becoming aware and you're not thinking, you're not analyzing, which means you're moving from beta brainwave patterns and slowing them down into alpha brainwave patterns. Now, as your brain begins to slow down to alpha, the inner world becomes more naturally more real than the outer world. You can still sense the outer world, but your attention more is on what you're creating in your inner world. That imaginary world of alpha, not only alpha, but coherent alpha, begins to unify different areas of the brain that have been fractured or fragmented because of trauma, because of past experiences. And as they begin to unify, as they begin to organize, different networks and communities of neurons showing other networks and communities of neurons, the brain gets more whole, and as it begins to become more unified and more whole, you start to feel more whole. And as the polarity of, or duality of analytical mind and its thinking begins to unify, the unity of polarity is called love. It's the union of opposites. It's the union of duality, and that when that energy begins to unify and the two halves of the brain start firing in unison, your heart begins to open and you start feeling whole. And when you feel that kind of wholeness, you want the moment to last. You don't want it to end. When you reach that point of orderliness and coherence, you'll say what I always say: that was so worth it. I'm so glad I made the effort, because it's right on the other side of your analytical mind. So I'm going to suggest that you lighten up a little bit. I think you're trying too hard. I've done this. I've gotten in my own way many times. I would suggest that instead of doing a whole entire open focus that you shorten it up. Maybe you just do focus on, the space around your head, the space around your shoulders, the space around your neck, space between your knees, and you practice it on your own without my voice, and just become aware that you're able to do this. The moment you sit down and you start getting too intense or you start trying too hard, your analytical mind is going to shift into high gear. And so practice and have fun with it. If someone's talking to you, become aware of the space between you and them in space. Just become aware that there's space in there. If you're sitting down at dinner and you're going to bless your food, close your eyes and become aware that you're in a room in space. And as you begin to do this, you're training your brain now to not only focus on objects and things, but energy, frequency, and the wave function of everything that is material. So I know for certain people it becomes a challenge, but I swear to you, I think you're just spending too much time trying too hard. And just start breaking it down into practicing it and winning by just being able to do it once, and then being able to do it twice, and then being able to just focus your attention beyond your shoulders in space while someone is talking to you. Become aware of the space behind you in space. Just play with it so that when you sit down to do your meditation, you'll realize that you can do it with your eyes open, you can do it with your eyes closed, and not get too overly intense in doing the process. So try that out, and you will do fine in an advanced workshop, because there have been plenty of people who have had the same problem who are happy that they made the effort. And I think you're just really spending a little too much time trying too hard.
Oh, and then here comes the space that the nose is in space. And why is he saying space? You think I don't see that?